Morning all. Um, bit of once again, another surprise stream. I know, but I think given the circumstances, it's very, very warranted. With obviously the bill being passed last night in Parliament. I was hopeful. Maybe I was a bit naive, but I was hopeful that this bill wouldn't be passed. But as we found out last night, in particular, not one Conservative actually voted against the Northern Ireland Protocol bill last night. Here we go. Instead, they all decided to abstain. Oh, Micklin, good morning, greetings from Germany, good mornings and greetings to you, or Guten Morgen, as they say over there. Yeah, this is just going to end up being ridiculous. It really is. Prepare for supreme silliness today. If you saw some of the action, shall we say, going on last night, it's all hashtag Think European. Yeah. So yeah, if you saw most of the, or at least some of the action last night, you had basically Liz Truss setting out what was ultimately going to be what her premiership would be looking like. Honestly, you'd generally seriously think that Liz Truss had some sort of reset device. You know, it's like watching an episode of Star Trek Voyager. You know, no matter what the consequences were for the ship and the crew in that particular episode, you're going to be all right, because by the end of the episode, the reset button is going to get hit. And it didn't matter that, you know, that Liz Truss was reminded, of course, that as someone who voted and, or at least backed, shall we say, Remain during the Brexit referendum, that she would be horrified by what was going on today. Maybe a younger Liz Truss would look back at this. Only action for you all. Maybe a younger Liz Truss would look back at this and think, what on earth am I doing? You know? But apparently not. She was reminded about that. She was reminded about the fact that, you know, this was meant to be an oven-ready deal. She repeated the lie, of course, that the current deal was not compatible with the Northern Ireland Protocol. The current Northern Ireland Protocol was not compatible with the Good Friday Agreement, even though, well, less than 12 months ago at this point, Boris Johnson was going around telling people that this was all going to be, you know, fine with the Good Friday Agreement. This was all fine. His deal was oven ready. You didn't need to look at it, guys. It was all going to be fine. It was all going to be fine and dandy. Didn't need to do anything about it. And unfortunately, people believed him, shall we say. as seemingly did Liz Truss at the time, only to now, once again, start repeating the lie that, well, that the Northern Ireland Protocol isn't compatible with the Good Friday Agreement, but in the very text of the deal, it expressly says that the deal that Boris Johnson did and signed is compatible with the Good Friday Agreement. You know, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brexit carousel. No matter what, it will keep on turning and the music will keep on playing because it ain't over yet, because we're waiting for how the EU is going to respond to this. Now, of course, at the moment, it has had its second reading, so it is going to go to the House of Lords next. Ultimately, in this case, I can probably predict that the Lords are not going to let this through. They have been very, very, very consistent in blocking measures around Brexit that have not been, well, compatible with our international agreements. And I have my problems with the House of Lords, as you know. I would love it to get a serious, dramatic overhaul. But in many cases, like, you know, today, I'm sort of glad we have it. But yeah, it's not going to be good. And of course, yes, the DUP, once again, shifting the goalposts, as I said they would. So, before this and prior to this, the DUP said we are not going to go back to Stormont until we have settled the issue of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Nope. Yes, there's also that to point out as well. It's not just that. You are right. It is a very much more of a power grab going on. It does take a lot of powers back from devolved governments, certainly in sort of Northern Ireland and Scotland, and of course it will have a constitutional crisis potentially on our hands, also bubbling very soon. So you've got that to look forward to as well. But needs to say, all this bill, yeah, was absolutely ridiculous to the extreme. I'm very, very shocked that the Conservatives, at least the rebels in the Conservative Party, did not vote against it. Instead, they abstained. I don't know if it would have, you know, killed the bill if that had been the case. Good morning to everyone. Yes, they did pass the bill. They passed it last night. And like I say, not a single Conservative voted against it. Instead, the people who were, shall we say, against the bill decided that they were going to abstain instead. But anyway, back to talking about the DUP, because the DUP have once again shifted their goalposts, because the DUP are not interested any of this really. They're just interested in starting crisis after crisis, basically until they can get back in power. That is their aim, that is their goal. Like I say, before this they were saying we are not going to go back into power sharing at Stormont or anything like that until, you know, this bill gets read. Well, the bill got read, so they shifted the goalposts, saying we're not going to do anything until this bill gets voted on and passed. Well, the bill, has been voted on and it has been passed, and they've already said that this bill, or at least they won't go back now until this bill officially becomes law. And of course, naturally, even if this doesn't get, hold up in the House of Lords and it becomes a game of, political ping pong with the Lords and the Commons backing it back and forth to each other, it will take at least a year for them to, get this bill through and up to royal assent. That's even if it had like the smoothest passage through the House of Lords. So even then, at that point, a ton of things are going to happen in Northern Ireland, to a point where we are now looking at having to have another election over in Northern Ireland, and I can't even see the DUP winning there. So they will just again say, I can already see it now, going out and saying, look, the new protocol is not compatible, saying exactly what they were saying before, and saying that the Northern Ireland Protocol must be completely torn up and a land border returned. And at that point, they are fully advocating for, of course, the complete removal of the Good Friday Agreement. But that is where we are at, unfortunately. The Conservatives knew full well that this was going to happen, that they were aiding and abetting these types of people. You're just here for the ponies now that I'm live. Yeah, to be honest, I wish I could be here for the ponies as well, but when stuff like this happens, we've sort of got to talk about it, because obviously you now know the situation. The Northern Ireland Protocol Bill has been at this point officially passed its second reading, meaning it's probably going to make its way now onto the House of Lords. It is very likely there is going to be a game of, ping pong, literally, where the Lords literally bat it back to the Commons, and the Commons bats it back to the Lords, and then it gets back to the Commons. Ultimately, that is potentially what is going to happen. And then, of course, once it passes the Lords, then goes on to getting royal assent. It's very doubtful the Queen will, shall we say, not sign it, although maybe we could live in hope that at least the Queen might recognise for a brief moment that maybe this might be a point where she should probably not sign this bill and give it royal assent, because it breaks international law. And to be honest, if the Queen did that, hooray! The Queen actually doing something, Jesus Christ. It would send a very strong signal, but that's very doubtful. The chances of the Queen not giving this royal assent, very, very doubtful. Very, very doubtful indeed that she will, of course, do that. We've really got to rely on the House of Lords at this point. and just hope that this just gets battered back and forth. Like I say, I haven't seen any news. Hang on, it's a bit windy. Hopefully you can still hear me. But yeah, hopefully probably today, we'll probably get to hear what the EU is going to do. We know they've already been gearing up to take the UK to court over this. Breaching international obligations, which again is kind of funny because, as has been brought up by David Lammy last night, Liz Truss last week alone sent out 12 reminders to other countries to remember to fulfill their international obligations. So, yeah, hypocrisy, thy name is Liz Truss. So, that's the point we're at. That is literally the point we're at now. And you've even got Boris Johnson going around, saying, yeah, we're united in all this. Yeah, aren't we all good friends? While at the moment, trying to pick two fights with the EU. Not only, of course, the Northern Ireland Protocol, but also the UK, extending more of its steel tariffs. Creating a protectionist regime, the type of regime that the Brexiteers told us was bad. Honestly, sometimes it's just like you look at stuff that happens, it's like, oh, not again. But as I've said before on this channel, it's just a roundabout. It's just a carousel. It's just a constant carousel. It just will never end. Everyone is distracted by the Ukraine war and cost of living. Very true. Well, us getting into a trade war, which ultimately this is what's going to happen now, because we're going to get taken to court. The UK will lose. In fact, that was one of the hilarious things last night. EU might temporarily restrict British vessels in their waters. Possible. Although that might be seen as an act of war, maybe. Fishing vessels, probably. But it can't restrict the full, obviously, flow of goods containers and things like that. There's all sorts of ramifications this is going to bring with it. And as a lot of people have continuously pointed out, while we're wasting time, on, all this Brexit nonsense, we've still got the fallout from the pandemic. We've still got, a recession looming to deal with. We've got inflation. We've got the cost of living crisis, the war in Ukraine. So many other things that really need serious time and effort. And I have to say, read it as serious time and effort, because ultimately the Conservatives are not devoting the serious time and effort to do it. That is a good point. That has been a tactic that's been used before, because the House of Lords, strange place indeed. And you are right to bring this up, that in the past the House of Lords has let bills go through namely, obviously, recently the Rwanda plan was squeaked through in the House of Lords because they shoved it through in the, shall we say, that almost practically the dead of night, or well, for the House of Lords, that's like, you know, late afternoon. That is very possible, and I wouldn't put it past the government to do that. But if there is serious opposition in the Lords to this, then they will mobilise against it. They will be on watch for it. So you are right, that is something that we should be watching out for. But if there is going to be serious opposition into the Lords, which I highly suspect there will be, then it has every possibility that there will be a serious attempt to really go after and block it in the Lords. That could very much happen. But you are right, that is something that definitely the government should be watching out for. So yeah, once again, what's the consequences of this? Well, ultimately, we're going to end up in a trade war. And we're going to end up in a trade war at a time where that's the last thing the people of this country need. But I also really think this could be the straw that really breaks the camel's back for a lot of people, shall we say, voting Conservative. Because I think the second you start a genuine, serious trade war, which is what Boris Johnson and Liz Truss are proposing by this, they know full well what the consequences are going to be. I think people are going to not be too happy about it. And that's when things could start to get really interesting, I think. The cost of living crisis is already causing severe problems. We're looking at a summer of strikes, not only just by the RMT, the teachers' unions are also threatening to go on strike, council workers are threatening to go on strike. There's a ton of different organisations that are threatening to go on strike, and I think you combine everything together, just goes to show you the absolute mess we are really in. That's very true, Chris. Probably worth an ask. Because this is what... There we go. Your notifications aren't working. Well, like I say, I think the second a proper trade war kicks in with the EU, and always explain this to people, where people are going, what's going on? If you're in the UK and you're speaking to a Conservative like, how dare the EU do this to us? Remind them that no, this isn't the EU doing this. This is Boris Johnson and his bizarre Brexiteer government who are doing this to us. It is the Tories who are doing this to us. The fact that, Grant Shapps has refused several times to meet with the RMT. It goes a bit, the fact that this deal was meant to be oven ready, it was perfect. How can an oven ready deal be being thrown off 12 months afterwards, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because you can go all the way back to the beginnings of Theresa May's government with David Davis. You know, you can go all the way back to there with David Davis and him talking about May's backstop deal. The fact that, oh yes, if we pass this deal, don't worry about it because we can alter it after we pass it. Which, if you remember at the time, was the very first, you know, public clash between sort of UK politicians and EU politicians. You know, hey, if we do this deal, you know, we expect you to honour it. And David Davis was out there going, no, it's all right, we'll change it in 6 months' time. And that, unfortunately, is where we are. This should have been, I think, brought up a lot more, and I think given a lot more attention. I'm probably worried about a lot more. Chatty rat. Teachers don't have to strike to cause havoc. Simply not marking state exam papers this summer would be enough. It's not part of the job description, but a nice earner for taking on extra duties. We'll have to see if they do something like that. I mean, that will be interesting, causing another exam crisis, just saying, you know, not our responsibility. You know? You know, and I've said before about the way that Japan strikes, and when it has public transport strikes on rail or bus, they, you know, strike very, very differently. But I think that's more down to their culture more than anything. And I've talked about it in the past, and, you know, some people have, you know, poo-pooed me about the idea that it's not possible. And if it's not possible, then, you know, fine. But, hey, you know, you've got to ask the question to know the answer, right? So ultimately, we go into another disaster. And this was very much publicly stated by the Brexiteers all the way back to 2016 with David Davis saying, you know, hey, we can pass the May's you know, protocol bill, and then we can change it, you know, 6 months later down the line, it'll be fine. And where are we now? Boris passes his, quote, oven-ready deal, and of course, what? More than 12 months later at this point, and he's already trying to change the deal. Cows in the bushes. But that's another point where we go, you know, what's happened here? What's gone on in government? You know, sometimes to be a fly on the wall, honestly, to be a fly on the wall in some of these, like, cabinet meetings, you know, and what's going on in there. You know, it's absolutely crazy, but that's where we are. Oh, hang on, we've got a traffic jam up ahead. Hang on. Come on. Come on, boys. It's cows as well. God, the last thing I need is them stampeding along this very narrow path. So everyone's watch out behind me just in case. Come on. There we go. I think we're clear. Fully. Good. Disappeared down there. Oh, there's none following me. Excellent. I think we're clear. I always worry when I meet cows on this narrow path because obviously they can get up at quite a bit of speed when they want to. And of course, I haven't got too much room to maneuver on this path. But yeah, honestly, it's what do you do when you've seen stuff like this, and you know, a UK government not willing to honour its treaty obligations. You know, what do you do? I mean, there has been talk very recently about doing like a general strike to try and sort of remove sort of the Tories, get rid of them. But even then, trying to generally organise a strike on that scale, where you've got a lot of people in this country who, don't get me wrong, we've still got good union representation in this country, but you've got a situation where a lot of unions have been very, very much defanged over the years, especially since, very much so because of Margaret Thatcher. And I think it's very likely the rail strikes are going to be seen as an excuse to pass more anti-union legislation. So, oh yeah, that was another bizarre thing that happened last night. There was there we go. There was a Conservative MP, I can't remember her name now, but she comes out and says, international law does not matter because we as Conservatives have a majority and therefore that is fine. What? What? So essentially, changing the law of the land just on the willy-nilly because, you can do. Get used to it, guys. Yeah, that was a bizarre comment, I'll tell you that now. So, what more can I say about some of this stuff? It's a bit hard to really talk about it because now it's been sort of passed. We've now got to sort of sit and wait and see what happens. And to be honest, none of it's going to be good. We are looking at a trade war. So, if you... I suppose if you want anything from the EU, get it now. Or if you are in the EU and... if you're in the EU and you want... if you want anything from the UK, get it now. I suppose, You know, this isn't going to be good for businesses. I think the first people going to speak out about this are going to be businesses, and I think they're going to go straight after the Conservative Party. I really hope that businesses really start to take a political stance here in the UK and start to really speak out against the government, because it's been very much like a British tradition that you know, businesses don't speak out and don't really like heavily criticize the government. So one of my hopes at least is that if when a trade war does kick off, and trust me, we are headed down that path right now, it is very, very, very much unavoidable at this point. You know, we've got to just hope that businesses actually start to really go, okay, we need to start making our voice heard. And then hopefully that might cause another round of you know, that might cause another round of discussions at least. And hopefully, shall we say, the more moderates in the Conservative Party will wake up and start to take notice of it at least. There you go. So yeah, it's oh, hang on. Really loud wind. I do apologise for the wind tunnel if you can still hear me. But when you walk in, you know, an open field like this, there's not too much you can do. There we go. It's calmed down a bit now. Yeah, none of this is going to be good. You know, summing all this up, we're on track for a trade war. Boris has already signalled he's going to have another row with the steel tariffs. We talked about that yesterday. But this is all part of the, you know, get Brexit done argument. Ultimately, Boris Johnson wants the next election to rerun his 2019 campaign effectively and say, we still need to get Brexit done, even though we said we got Brexit done. Let's really get it done this time, guys. Of course, another bizarre thing that got reported as well is after the disastrous by-election defeats as well, there was another wave of letters to the 1922 committee. And of course, I am hoping, very, very much so, that the 1922 committee will meet, hopefully. I was hoping they would meet on Monday and essentially allow another vote of no confidence. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see. This is the worst part about all of this. All of this stuff that has happened should never ever have been allowed to happen. The Conservatives having this massive majority, while at the same time really bad, is actually quite good, because they've got no one to blame for all these crises, all these disasters. They've tried to blame it on past Labour governments. You've had the Daily Mail come out and say, oh yeah, it's because of the Labour government that's been in power. And you're like, what do you mean? Labour government being in power? You know? So, yeah. I don't know if this is going to go end well. Ultimately, at the end of the day. And, of course, the consequences of all this result in a trade war, which would result in the UK already being in a really bad position, being put in an even worse position. I can guarantee you today, Biden and Johnson, or there will be some talk today between Biden and Johnson, and Biden will reiterate its stance that it again stands with the EU, that it should not be, doing this. The actions it is taking are wrong, and that it can kiss sweet goodbye to any of those trade deals that it wants to do. So expect that to probably happen today as well, at some point. So yeah, as always, like I say, thank you very much for joining me for this impromptu, good morning walk today. When needs must, and obviously things like this happen. Obviously, it's good to do this type of thing. But as always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, there is a link down below to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. Or there's the YouTube subscription link, where if you get lots of little bells and whistles. And of course, we'll see you all next time.